Sit! Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, and my fellow nerd, Garrett Price.
How's it going?
It's going well. We have no Matt O'Hara today. Matt is out sick, so he is at home, and we'll have him back next week, hopefully after we're talking some Week 1 results, what we learned, Dynasty Fantasy Football-wise.
Yes.
Let's get through the season. It's upon us today, tomorrow, because the show comes out on Wednesday. There's actual NFL football. We got the Bucks on there, Cowboys. I'm excited. A lot of things go on this year. A lot of bold things that can happen, which brings us into today's show. We're doing bold predictions, a double episode, this episode and the Nerd Herd episode. So if you think these predictions are bold, wait till you hear the next bolder episode. It's going to be great. I'm excited. These are usually wild. These are not for accuracy. These are for... wow, let me bust out my very cloudy crystal balls and look at it from a very optimistic standpoint and tell you things that I am optimistically think are going to happen in the 2021 season, such as the Browns are going to win the Super Bowl. How bold is that?
I mean, I think it really comes down to more not even what we think will happen, but more just what we want to happen. Like, I want this to be true, so I'm going to make it a bold prediction.
Okay. If we do it, let's say if we want this to be true or not.
Okay.
So before we get into our hot, bold predictions, let me tell you about one of our new friends at Thrive Fantasy. You can come in right now, come prop up on the Thrive Fantasy this football season with our friends at Thrive Fantasy. It's a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. You heard me right, player props. And what you're going to do on Thrive Fantasy is out of 20 players, they're going to give you 20 different props for these fantasy football players. And you just have to pick the 10 props that you like the most. This is going to give you an opportunity to win a lot of cash and a lot of prizes. And right now, Thrive has over $140,000 guaranteed in prizes for NFL Week 1 and has already awarded over $4 million. And this some of that cash or that $4 million can be in your pocket if you're good at saying, is he going to have more than 10 touchdowns or less than touchdowns on the year? Is he going to have more than 100 receiving yards in this game or less than 100 receiving yards in this game? And who am I talking about? What player? You got to get on Thrive Fantasy right now and check it out. And right now, Thrive featured a $100,000 guaranteed contest. It's $20 to enter, and first place takes home $20,000. And all you got to do is use that promo code NERDS when you sign up today, and you're going to receive 100% instant first deposit match up to $100. That means if you put $100 in, you instantly have $200 to go gamble with. Download Thrive Fantasy on the App Store or Play Store or by visiting their website, www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop up today. Use that promo code NERDS to get on the action. I'm in it. Garrett's in it. Jared's in it. We're in this first week contest. I deposited my $20, free $20 because they gave me free money.
You want to hear some of these props?
What are some of the props? What do you got? Got a couple?
So, Tua, over under 240.5 pass yards.
Who are they playing?
They're playing New England.
Under.
I went with the under as well. And then we got Odell, over under 8.5 total receptions.
Over.
I'm going to say under.
I said under.
Over.
And I got
9
one more
catches
for you.
185 yards and 85 touchdowns.
So, total rush yards for Christian McCaffrey versus the Jets, 71.5 over-under.
Over.
Ooh. Over.
I said over too.
Look, it's that simple of a game. What do you think? Get on Thrive Fantasy right now. Put that promo code in, NERDS, and you can, if you're right, you win some cash. It's that simple. Check it out today. Garrett, are you ready to get bold?
I'm ready to get so bold.
Yeah, it's like they have prediction strike and then they have prediction rich. And that's where I'm at right now. And my first bold prediction out the gate is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire will finish as a top 4 PPR running back. That's right, top 4. He'll have so many yards, he won't know what to do with all those milkshakes in him. He'll have so many catches, he's probably going to get his own fishing show because I predict that he is going to have a monster year boldly. I'm boldly predicting here because right now, when we look at the Andy Reid offense, Andy Reid is historically known for producing high-end running backs, right? They have a better offensive line this year. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is actually coming off. Some people might think he had a disappointing rookie year. He had a very solid rookie year last year. Finished as a top 24 fantasy football running back, 1,100 total yards from scrimmage, 5 touchdowns in his 13 games he played. And the big stat here is he caught 36 of his 50 targets for 297 yards and a touchdown, which I expect that to go up pretty significantly. And we look back at the history of Andy Reid, Brian Westbrook from 2003 to 2009. Brian Westbrook's first year in PPR leagues, he finished as wide running back number 19, kind of close to like Clyde Edwards did there as running back 21. And we remember they brought in Le'Veon Bell, and right at the time, going into it, before they brought in Le'Veon Bell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had more touches than anybody in the league besides Zeke Elliott, Derrick Henry, and Joe Mixon. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a featured back till they brought him in. Now, after Brian Westbrook's first year in his system at running back 19, he finished as running back 5, running back 7, running back 4, running back 1, and then he got old and finished as running back 36. But hey, we all get older every single day, so this isn't a calamity. And then after Brian Westbrook, he had LaShawn McCoy for 2010 to 2012, running back 3, running back 3, running back 8. Then he had Jamal Charles, running back from 2013 to 2015, running back 7, running back 1, running back 2. Then he had Spencer Ware. But even Spencer Ware in 2016 was running back 17. Then he had Kareem Hunt, 2017 to 2018. Running back 5, running back number 8. So what I'm trying to say is you're going to get a high-end running back in Andy Reid's offense. And you can sit here and throw those names out there. Well, that's Kareem Hunt. That's Jamal Charles. That's LaShawn McCoy. That's Brian Westbrook. Yeah, well, this is first-round pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who coming out of the draft, you could argue, was one of the best pass-catching backs in that class. And they just didn't utilize him that much last year, and he didn't really score a lot of touchdowns. So what I'm predicting, and very boldly, is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to have all this come together. He's going to be fantastic. He's going to be a top 5 fantasy football running back, and you're going to think you're lucky stars that you listen to this show, and you boldly went where no fantasy player went before, and you traded heat for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You put him in your pocket, get a little hot, like a little hot pocket. You know, those are tasty on a good school day. And you're going to finish with a Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. How hot is that? How bold is that prediction?
That's a pretty bold. If I'm gonna do a 1 out of 10 scale, I'm gonna say that's a 8. I'm gonna say that's an 8. The only reason
10?
I'm not going 10 is because freaking David Montgomery finished as running back 4 last year. Like, guys, it's possible for guys to come out of nowhere, make it happen. It's really gonna come down to the receiving volume, I think. If he can get the receiving volume, there's an outside shot it would happen. Am I willing to put real money on it?
Inside shot.
Am I willing to put money on it? Heck no. But there's a chance.
Where's that prop? Where's that Thrive Fantasy prop for that?
Over under top 5
running
running
action on it. Yeah, that's the biggest argument. Like, hey, if David Montgomery can finish as running back 4, Clyde Edwards-Helaire can. Well,
anybody can do it.
Yeah, I do. I believe Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to have a fantastic year. And if I'm going to go bold, I'm saying top 4. Garrett, hit me with something bold. Hit me with something spicy.
That was a really bold one to start off here. I almost feel like I want to skip my first one to go to a bolder one just to compete. But we'll stay in order here. My first bold prediction for the 2021 season is that both CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper are wide receiver 1s. Now, we've seen a lot of offenses before have multiple wide receiver 1s in the same offense. We've seen it in the past with Green Bay where they had guys like Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb. We saw it with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. I think this is the next iteration of a team having 2 wide receiver 1s. That team's passing offense is absolutely wild. Last season, in the 4 games before Dak's injury, Amari Cooper was the wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. I don't think a lot of people realize how well he was playing to start the year. He was the wide receiver 1 overall. And CeeDee Lamb wasn't too far outside of wide receiver 1 contention too. As a rookie, he was at wide receiver 16 at that point. So I think that there's a very real chance. I don't even know that this is spicy enough, but I think both Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are wide receiver 1s this season.
I get that on a spicy scale, a 2.
A 2?
Yeah, it's not even really a pepper. It's like one of those pepper candies. It looks like a pepper, and then you eat it. Like, ooh, that's sweet. Maybe a 1. Maybe a 1.
Maybe a 1?
Good.
No, you can't move it
Bold.
down.
I mean, it's bold, but like in non-bold letters. Like it's like you're about to hit Command
Right.
B, but right now it's just italic.
Oh,
What the
man.
hell?
I agree. So I have no comment. I agree. I think
Okay. All right.
I would predict the same thing. I'm boldly going with
He
Garrett's
said I
guy.
actually put that. I statted him out that way, so I don't know why we're getting all up in arms about this. No,
right.
I actually, it's funny because Amari Cooper was the more productive receiver last year, but I think most people probably have them flipped at this point. I think more people would probably project CeeDee Lamb as a wide receiver 1, maybe more so than Amari Cooper. I think he's still going. I think the target's going to be pretty darn even for both of those guys. I think it's really Gallup that might be the one lagging behind a little bit of the 3 receivers. But I wouldn't be shocked to see both of those guys get 130, 140 targets easily.
It's a dynasty factor of it. It's a younger receiver. You know, CeeDee Lamb's name's hotter because he's a young receiver. And you're right. Amari Cooper was doing better than CeeDee Lamb in that offense last year. To be fair, CeeDee Lamb came in as a rookie in a COVID season,
yep.
so you can't really hold against him. Then you have all these highlight tapes of CeeDee Lamb dominating practices where Amari Cooper was not a part of. So, I mean, it's just a hot name. I'm with you. I think Amari Cooper in redraft has been an absolute steal out of all these redraft leagues I've been doing. I've been getting Amari Cooper in every single one of them as my second wide receiver in like the 5th round. To me, it's tremendous value when you get a wide receiver 1 where everybody else is reaching. So I like it, Garrett. I think it's a very strong take that I have literally no argument to get against. I want both of them. I think Amari Cooper does hold some value as there's some small dip there on his values. Amari Cooper's been in that realm of like, you know, hey, everybody likes Amari Cooper, but nobody really wants to buy Amari Cooper. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you could honestly make the argument that he's like the not as well known Robert Woods. Like everybody knows Robert Woods is undervalued. I just don't think people realize that Amari Cooper is undervalued because he tends to produce year in, year out. But he just had that weird stint for a little bit in his last year with the Raiders where I think it's thrown everybody off. But outside of that season, he has been incredibly productive.
Still really young, still very talented route runner, still has really good hands, still has good size. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Let's move on to our third bold prediction, shall we?
Hit me.
My next bold prediction is Antonio Brown will lead all of the Bucs wide receivers in fantasy points in 2021. Yeah, I mean, Antonio Brown is somebody who didn't even sign with the Bucs until week 7 of last year. And that's after only playing like 1 game in 2019. When they did play, they played, I believe if you include the playoffs, they played in 11 games together total. This is the target share amongst them. Chris Godwin got 78 targets. Mike Evans got 77 targets. Antonio Brown got 76 targets in those numbers. And listen, he finished last year. He was wide receiver. Antonio Brown was wide receiver 18 in PPR leagues from weeks 10 to 17 last year. So he was still very, very productive. You got Mike Evans. You got Chris Godwin, who just this week, he didn't really practice today. Don't know what's going on there. But during that time, even from 10 to 17, where he was wide receiver 18, Mike Evans was wide receiver 10, Chris Godwin was wide receiver 15, and then he was wide receiver 18. So we had a little Pittsburgh Steelers action going on there with Claypool, like kind of how they were kind of fooling out there. So for me, you know, how is this ball going to get moved around? Mike Evans is the outside receiver. Chris Godwin's just overly talented altogether. I think Antonio Brown is going to come in here and have one last hurrah. And it's going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's going to outproduce from a fantasy football perspective these other wide receivers. Obviously, Mike Evans' big numbers last year came off the touchdowns. I think Antonio Brown, who's looking really good in camp so far, is going to increase his touchdown total, take some of that away from Mike Evans, and have a couple more big plays than he did. Because remember, he was a year and a half removed essentially from the game when he came in last year. I think another year in this offense to go along with Tom Brady, who's already had a little bit of a rapport with. I think Antonio Brown comes in and is a number one fantasy football weapon for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the 2021 season. How hot is that take?
That's a pretty hot one as well. I don't think it's quite as hot as the CEH one, so I'll give it like a 6.5.
Okay.
But it's still a very hot take. We're talking about two alpha wide receivers that are established on this team. Everybody knows who they are. And I think everyone's been concerned about just the mental state of Antonio Brown more so than anything. Like, can he be okay enough to play an entire season, to be okay through an entire offseason? So far, it looks like that's the case. And Bruce Arians even came out today and said he looks like the Antonio Brown from 4 or 5 seasons ago. And if that's the case, he was the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football at that point. So if that's true, then this could absolutely be possible. I still think that the other 2 receivers at this point in the career, they're a little bit younger, a little more, probably still, I don't know about Mike Evans, but Chris Godwin's a little more athletic. So it'll be interesting. I don't know that I would project it that way, but I can absolutely see a scenario where Tom Brady just falls in love with what Antonio Brown's doing, and they're just making business decisions out there.
Bullet going where no dynasty analyst has gone before.
All
Pulling
right.
out names left and right, being bold. Garrett?
This one's a little more bold. This one's a little more bold. I don't know if you're ready for this one, Rich.
I hope I'm ready for it.
Darren Waller outscores Travis Kelce and is now the number 1 scoring tight end in fantasy football. How hot is that?
That's like a 4.5, 5.
Okay. We're trending in the right direction.
We're going up. No, it's Travis Kelce's so dominant. I see where the boldness comes in, but I did think about it. I was like, man, Kelsey's been pretty healthy these last couple of years. He's getting a little older. I was like, could this be like a year where he gets a little bit more banged? Obviously, you can't predict injuries, but like, is this finally the year? Like, how can somebody be tight end 1 6 years in a row?
It's
wild. How is it even possible? I was like, where can I go bold at tight end overtaking Kelsey? And I was like, well, if I'd pick Waller like you did, that's not too bold. It's like he's not. It's like they're both. It's like I have a pit bull, you have a Rottweiler. We both have 2 really tough dogs.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like they're still the same species. So
here's my reasoning. Here's my reasoning as to why I think this could potentially happen in a perfect world. Travis Kelce and Darren Waller were the 2 most heavily targeted tight ends last season. Travis Kelce averaged 9.7 targets per game, whereas Darren Waller was at 9.1. So both over 9 targets a game. No other tight end even got over 8. So they were far and away above everybody else in that echelon. We still don't have any established pass catchers at this point. And in Oakland, we think that Bryan Edwards is going to get there.
Vegas.
We think that Henry Ruggs is going to get there, but we don't have anybody established there. But the reason they were so different last year, like I said, 9.7 and 9.1 targets per game, but Darren Waller actually had 2 more receptions than Travis Kelce did. So he was actually the leader in receptions. The biggest difference between the 2, what's that?
I was putting out the number 11.
Oh, I thought you were pausing. I was like, pause.
No, that's the size of my nipple.
The biggest difference between the 2 of them was actually there was 2 more touchdown catches, but even more so was the yards per reception. And I think that's where Travis Kelce could lose some ground potentially to Darren Waller. Last year, Travis Kelce averaged 13.5 yards per catch. That was the highest in his entire career. He's never had that many yards per catch. 13.5. Darren Waller, conversely, actually had, since he's been the main tight end in Las Vegas there, actually had his lowest at only 11.2. However, the season before, they both averaged 12.7 yards per catch. If they both get back to the same point where they're averaging roughly the same yards per catch, and I think that could happen if guys like Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs emerge, then I think we get to the point where Waller could absolutely overthrow Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and your boldness carries right over to my boldness because how does Clyde Edwards-Helaire catch so many more footballs? He steals them from Travis Kelce.
That's right.
Which then
Give me those.
propels Darren Waller into tight end 1 overall.
That's how it happens. That is how it happens.
Easy money. No, I like it. I give it a solid 5.5 on the bold scale.
Yes, I'm
I
moving
mean,
up.
you came in here and said, hey, TJ Hawkinson's going to be tight end number 1 overall, which is where I thought about coming in to be super bold.
I thought about it too, actually, but it was too bold.
I get that at 8.8, but I give this one a 5.5.
8.8 because of his number? Isn't he 88?
I don't know.
I think TJ Hawkinson's 88.
Sounds right.
Jared, look it up.
I was just say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
I'll nonchalantly disagree like I'm super knowledgeable about things.
You just woke me up. What do you want me to look up?
What number is TJ Hawkinson? Is he number 88?
Yeah. I don't even have to look
He
that
doesn't
up.
even
Come on,
know.
bro.
He doesn't know.
Don't have to look. Come on, it's Hawkinson. All right, my next guy here is Marquez Callaway. Will finish as a top 20 PPR fantasy football receiver. I think he's going to finish with a line somewhere right around 80 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Yes, the undrafted rookie out of Tennessee right now has shown a really good rapport with Jameis Winston. He's made some fantastic circus catches in the end zone, one-handed even, and he tracks the ball really, really well. We have no Michael Thomas for the first 6 weeks and maybe even longer. Adam Troutman's banged up. They cut Latavius Murray. They have Traquan Smith, who's pretty much just a go receiver at this point of his career. He hasn't shown anything whatsoever from a route running standpoint. Even coming to UCF, that wasn't really his repertoire. That he did really well. So to me, and a team with Jameis Winston with his big arm and a Sean Payton offense, somebody's going to have to be the benefactor here and produce at a solid level at the receiver position. And to me, Marquez Callaway is the clear-cut choice. And a lot of people might be hesitant and get in on this bandwagon, but not me. I think he's going to come in here. I think he's going to produce. I think anytime the team falls behind, he's going to step up and be their go-to receiver. As the number one receiver in a Sean Payton offense, I believe you can give me a top 20 PPR finish, and that's exactly what Marquez Callaway is going to do. Top 20, that's my low end. If he was like wide receiver 13, 14, I wouldn't be too shocked. It all comes down to the touchdowns and how many touchdowns is Jameis going to sling to him. I feel like it's going to be closer to that 8, 9, 10 range. I have him down to 7. So that 80 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 7 touchdowns, that's right around what Terry McLaurin did last year. So Marquez Callaway could come into the hype that Terry McLaurin came in with that kind of performance, and soon be saying, hey, why are we paying Michael Thomas all this money when we got Marquez Callaway? Bye, Felicia. And Marquez Callaway establishes himself as a young dynasty fantasy football asset. Bold. How bold is that one?
That's pretty bold, Rich. That's pretty bold.
I'm here with just boldness. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be as bold as possible.
Yeah, that's pushing your CEH take. I'm gonna have to think about which one's more bold, but it's definitely up there. Here's why it's so bold. We're talking about an undrafted wide receiver that is. It's not even his rookie year. It's his second year, so he didn't really produce much as a rookie. We saw glimpses, but it wasn't like he came out right away guns blazing. We're like, oh, this guy's a stud. So, I mean, for an undrafted guy to come out and do that, and I don't know. I don't think I can go. That's really bold. That's really bold.
I want to put Jameis Winston in here, too, because I think Jameis Winston is going to finish as a solid fantasy. Well, not too solid, but a QB, too. And it comes down to the solid running game and Jameis Winston's arm. I just think it really fits Marquez Callaway really well. I think he's going to finish right around like where Brandon Cooks finishes, if not better, which is going to be top 20. So take that, nerds.
Bold. It's bold. All right. I'm going to go with my, what would this be, my third one here?
This is your third.
My third one here, the Moors have more. I even gave it a title for mine, this one here. The Moors have more. Elijah and Rondale Moore have more total yards this season than Chase and Jamar Chase and Devonta Smith. Bold?
Wow. Pretty bold. Wait, no, not bold at all. Because I think
not bold at all.
No, only because if you say Devonta Smith, I'll take that as bold. But I think Jamar Chase has a dud year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to take a while. And this has nothing against Chase. I think it falls into the category of Chase. We thought Chase at times played a little soft at LSU, and the fact that he hasn't played football in well over a year, and had to get that report back. I think that's just going to take time for Chase to get back into the swing of things, and I think by the time he does, it'll be too late for all fantasy football production. You know what I mean? I think Elijah Moore comes out swinging. I have a hot take about the Jets team. I think Devonta Smith is really good, so that's where the boldness comes in. Jamar Chase doesn't that's not bold. I think Tyler Boyd's gonna have more fantasy points than Jamar Chase. Is that bold?
Maybe a little bit. But yeah, so part of this too was you talked about Elijah, you talked about Jamar Chase. I'm a believer in Rondale Moore. I really liked what I saw in the preseason from Rondale Moore. I think they're going to use him all over the field. They're going to use him on gadget plays, but they're going to use him as a true receiver as well. And I think especially on a lot of those scramble plays where Kyler Murray's just trying to find somebody, Rondale's the kind of guy that can get open real quick underneath and then make a big play out of nowhere. So I really like Elijah Moore. I really like Rondale Moore. And I do have some of the same concerns. I'm not quite as down on Jamar Chase as you are, but I do have some of those same concerns. And Devonta Smith, as much as I loved his tape, and I think that he could still absolutely be the top receiver in this class, he didn't come out of the gate swinging. He was banged up. Things have started kind of slow. We don't really know how this offense is going to work in Philadelphia. So it could be an offense that's like a little bit of a slower start. Same thing with Baltimore or the Bengals. Could be an offense with a little bit of a slower start because of Joe Burrow coming back. I don't think the Arizona Cardinals, I have no doubt that their offense is going to come out guns blazing. And the Jets very well could too. We'll see what happens with Zach Wilson. There's always excitement about young quarterbacks. We'll see how that goes. I think that's a little bit more of a question mark. But the combination of total yards for Elijah Moore and Rondale Moore will exceed that of Jamar Chase and Devonta Smith.
Yeah, I'll take that because I think Chase is what holds them back again. And again, this is not a slam on Chase. I don't think Chase is going to have a good 2021 season. That's all. Yeah, that's what it boils down to.
That makes sense. Well, before you
one big catch all preseason.
Before you get into your next hot take here, I do want to talk about our guys that I've been talking about all season long over at PredictionStrike.com. Yes, that's right. Our friends at PredictionStrike.com, they are back here again. Maybe some of these bold predictions, some of these hot takes that we have, maybe stick one or two of those in your pocket and say, you know what? I'm going to go over on PredictionStrike.com and get a couple shares of this player so that way I can cash in because I think Garrett and Rich are geniuses and these bold predictions will not fail. And if you want to do that, go over to PredictionStrike.com. We will give you the promo code Dynasty for you to punch in and you will receive a free share of a player with your first deposit of $20 or more. That's right, a free share of a player with the promo code Dynasty and your first deposit of $20 or more over at PredictionStrike.com.
Garrett, are you ready for another hot take?
Oh, give me hot take number 4 or number 7, depending on how you're counting.
It's my number 4.
Your number 4,
so,
total number.
Now,
4.
this is one I went to back when I was picking my top 12 running backs,
okay.
But I'm here at it again. And that's Jonathan Taylor finishes outside of the top 12. Hey, listen, I think Jonathan Taylor is going to lead the Colts in the backfield in touches and snaps and all. But I don't know what it is about the Colts offense this year. Like, I'm just really worried. Like, I'm very optimistic for Michael Pittman Jr., Paris Campbell. But again, this comes down a little bit. I'm a little bit worried about Carson Wentz. I'm just wondering how it's going to hold up. And this is an offense right now that we see on Frank Wright. Like he likes to utilize all of his backs. There's a reason they brought back Marlon Mack, and they have Nyheim Hines there. And when it comes down to using all these different backs, if you put them all together, they usually get a little bit more touches than Jonathan Taylor, at least from last year. So right now, will Jonathan Taylor be more involved in the passing game? I'm a little bit worried with Nyheim Hines being there, and I know they like Hines a lot, and I think he's on the last year of his deal, so they're going to utilize him as well. Carson Wentz, is he going to be the same kind of quarterback that Phillip Rivers was, where Phillip Rivers literally just fed these running backs at a high ratio? Does Carson Wentz change that? Do they want to open the passing game a little bit more? I think all of this confusion will possibly lower Jonathan Taylor's touch count to something that we're not, like, we're all thinking like he's the guy, he's going to get all the touches. I'm a little bit worried that it's not to be the case, and I think that's going to put him on the outside looking in from running back one purposes. Again, how does Clyde Edwards-Helaire finish as a top 5 running back? He's got to push people out. Jonathan Taylor, unfortunately, might be just that guy. It's a very close situation for him, but I think he finds himself almost like your Joe Mixon take a couple of years ago, right on the outside, looking in. The targets are going to be there a little bit less. The receptions are going to be a little bit less. Phillip Rivers is in there. It's going to be all worried. It's going to be JT on the outside.
See, I I don't know that this is a 10, but I feel like it should be a 10 just because of how much I disagree. But I think absolutely Jonathan Taylor will. I don't see a situation where his total touches are lower than last year, because the first half of the season, there were games where he was almost the backup at times to Nyheim Hines. There was a few games there where he was barely getting anything. He had like 6 rushes in one of the games, and I think he is going to be more closer to the guy we saw the last 6 games of the season than the guy we saw the first half of the season. And if he's closer to the second, I'm not saying he's going to be exactly that, but if he's closer to the guy that we saw the second half of the season, that means he'll have as many, if not more, touches than he had last year, and he's going to be more than effective with them.
This is the bold prediction I feel least confident.
Well, you know what? This might be the This might be the boldest one now, because this is playing off of your bold take here. You ready for this?
Oh, yeah.
This is probably my hottest one.
That's good. Can I predict it?
You can predict it.
You're gonna say something funny about like Carson Wentz being like a top 8 fantasy quarterback.
Top 10 quarterback, Carson Wentz. That's right. Top 10 quarterback. So hot, so bold. Look.
Yeah, this is a 10.
The only reason that this guy can't produce as a top end quarterback is because of injury. If he stays healthy, if he plays 14, 15, 16 games, I don't think there's a situation where he's not at least a top 13, 14 quarterback. I mean, he was quarterback 13 on a points per game basis last year on a dumpster fire of a team, like absolute dumpster fire, and that's including games that he finished. But that team was terrible. Most of the offensive line was hurt. He had no receivers to pass to. And the whole situation, his coach didn't really want him. Like, he's back with his coach that had him as a top 6 quarterback as a sophomore. Now you give him the best offensive line he's had in a while. You give him JT and Nyheim Hines, Michael Pittman Jr. as young ascending star. Hopefully, eventually T.Y. Hilton. We don't know. But I think this is the best situation he's been in a while. If he can stay healthy, which I get is the toughest issue for him. But if he's able to do it, I would be shocked to not see him as a top 12 quarterback. But I'm even going to say top 10 for Carson Wentz.
Yeah. The big thing there you said is if. And it's kind of like I feel like the Spartans replying back to Xerxes when he's like, if we have to come in there and you don't lay down your weapons, if we have to come in there and we're going to kill you all. And he just replies back, if. Carson Wentz staying healthy the whole year. Yeah, I mean, he literally, that's never happened. Like, literally, it's just never happened. I have a good as odd as finding like a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow with a bowl of Lucky Charms waiting for me, nonetheless.
I do love Lucky Charms.
You mentioned if they're going to win, they're going to rely on the run game. I love the receivers there. I like the receivers there. Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, T.Y. Hilton's already hurt. Jack Doyle at tight end. Where's all this production going to come from? I just don't see where it's going to come from. This is the top. This is a 10 bold take for me because I have no possible way that Carson Wentz can squeeze himself into 12. I mean, he's not better than Baker Mayfield by a long shot. I mean, Baker Mayfield's probably going to score double his fantasy points.
So Carson Wentz has played all 16 regular season games twice, actually.
When?
In 2016.
4th grade and 9th grade.
2016, his rookie season, he played all 16 games. And in 2019, people forget, he played the entire regular season. He got hurt in the playoffs.
Yeah, still big if. Those are made up facts. Those are bold facts. I'm not buying those. I'll put those
Fake
in
news.
layaway. Maybe come back to them later if I want them. But yeah, I just don't know. I just don't see. I don't think he has the weapons around him to finish that high.
Okay.
I mean, he doesn't have the assets he needs, and if he does, then the bold prediction would be like Michael Pittman's a wide receiver 1. If for him to finish as a top 10 fantasy football receiver, he's got to have somebody who's going to throw the ball to, and that means like Michael Pittman Jr. is coming out with 110 receptions for 1,400 yards almost.
Well,
you know what I mean?
but who was his
Justin Jefferson
when he was quarterback 13 last year, and this would only be 3 spots higher to make him top 10. When he was quarterback 13 last year, which weapon went off for him last year? None of them.
True.
So
These are you're stating facts, and I'm stating boldness. I think this is boldly bad.
All right.
A little B&B.
All right.
Not Breaking Bad, boldly
bad.
Yeah, it's going where no Rich will ever go. And I mean, I don't hate Carson Wentz. I don't think this is his year. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks there in Indy. I think Indy, they have a really good defense, and there's a lot of hype about him just banking on his offense. And I know he's back in his old system. It's just we need everything to go right. And for me, I think it all just comes down to Jonathan Taylor. Like if they're going to do well, it's got to be on Jonathan Taylor. Like Carson Wentz doesn't scare me. And again, there's a reason that the Eagles let him go. Like they feel like he's broken, and I'm not 100% sure I'm with you on that where he is broken. He can't be saved, but it's real hard to make that decision. You know what I mean? And the Eagles are well respected in their talent evaluation in Philadelphia. So to me, there's a lot of mystery involved, and I'm not Scooby-Doo, so I can't solve it. We'll find out though. I like it. Bold, very bold, Garrett.
There we go.
All right, next one. You ready for? Is this my last one?
I think this is the last one, unless you want to do 6. This is your last one.
Okay. Well, my next prediction is Sony Michelle finishes as a running back 2, so top 24 fantasy football running back. He will have the most fantasy points out of that Rams backfield, which means he's going to outproduce Darrell Henderson. I think Darrell Henderson's a nice back. I think he's somewhat limited. Very explosive north-south runner. I think Sony Michelle is a very solid pass catcher running back. I mean, we kind of went into all these Sony Michelle stats.
Sure.
I think it was last week about why I like Sony Michelle, where his statistics are, how he's one of the better pass catcher running backs coming out of that draft class, and that's the fact that James White held him back in the system, and Bill Belichick held him back. He looked really good last year, averaging over 5.7 yards per attempt. This year in training camp, he's been really healthy. Obviously, like Carson Wentz, health is everything. But everybody's predicting this Rams offense to take a big leap forward, Matt Stafford at the helm, and to really open things up. And it's why I like Van Jefferson more than I like Deshaun Jackson. I think Van Jefferson's a nice little sneaky wide receiver 3 possible play out there for the Rams. So you can put that in bold predictions
there
too.
We go.
Lock him up as top 36 with his savvy route running. But a running back's going to have to benefit here. And if everybody's like super excited about Cam Akers finishes a running back 1, that means if given the opportunity, you got to be excited about another running back 2. And I think Darrell Henderson gets banged up enough consistently that if one running back can stay healthy, obviously it's a big question mark for any running back, they're going to benefit from it. I think this is the year that Sony Michelle remedies all that hurt he's provided to all the owners that have taken him so high and listen to this podcast and hear me tote how great how good he's going to be this year. Hey, it's been 4 years, but give him this year, okay, guys?
Another one.
I think Sony Michelle finally is worth a damn and finishes as a running back 2.
You know what? I don't know if this is a compliment or not, but I think this is your least bold take of all of them, because I think there could be some validity to it. I think Darrell Henderson's a good back. I think we know that he is an explosive playmaker, but we talked about Carson Wentz being banged up all the time. I mean, Darrell Henderson, I feel like, is always on the injury report, always banged up, and that's at a position where you're asking for contact. Like there is going to be contact every single play that you have, and so that's the tough part for him. I don't know that he has the build. I don't know that they want him to be an every down back. Now, Sony Michelle's had some injury issues of his own. So, hopefully the knees hold up. That's the biggest thing for Sony Michelle. But I think they will use him between the tackles. They gave him enough time when they made the trade to get him up to speed. I think he's going to have at least a good comprehension of most of the playbook. I'm not naive enough to believe he has it all memorized by now. But I think enough of it is down that he can be used effectively in week 1. And then I think it's going to be somewhat of the hot hand approach. Sony Michelle's having a good week. Let him go. Let him ride. Darrell Henderson's having a good week. Let him go. Let him ride. I think that's how it's going to go. And so if you think that Sony Michelle's going to have more of those weeks, then there's a chance that he sneaks in as an RB2. So I think this is probably your least bold, which also means I think it's the most likely.
Nice. Give me your final bold prediction here.
All right. Tell me what kind of vibe are you feeling right now? Are you wanting me to go? Because I have a couple real spicy ones that I might want to save for the Nerd Herd, but I could end really strong here. So what are you thinking here, Rich?
Let's go. Let's go out with a bang.
Okay.
Even though the next show is the bolder show.
Okay.
Give me the bold one.
Drop it like it's hot.
All right. Mr. Robert Woods finishes as a top 6 wide receiver on the season. How bold is that, Rich?
That's a 7.5.
Okay. I felt like it was going to be pretty high.
I could see it. I just think he's going to have one. Like, he's got to have one finish where he's just like a monster. You know.
Here's my biggest rationale for why I made this bold claim. There's a couple other little things, but the biggest issue, I brought this up on a show probably 2 or 3 months ago, talking about him. Robert Woods' ADOT last year, so that's average depth of target, so where he's catching it in proportion to where the line of scrimmage is, was at 6.7 yards. That was one of the lowest in the NFL out of players that got at least 30 targets at their wide receiver position. One of the lowest in the NFL. However, in his season 2 years prior to that, when he had his huge breakout season and everybody was like, oh my gosh, Robert Woods finished as wide receiver 11. How did that happen? His ADOT that year, how high do you think it was, Rich? Just guess.
12.5.
Close. 11.4. 11.4 that year. So almost 5 yards more per reception in 2018 than it was in 2020. So I think with Jared Goff exiting the scene, Matthew Stafford entering the scene, and they need somebody because Cooper Kupp is not that guy. And honestly, Van Jefferson's really not that guy either. So there'll be times, sure, that maybe they, for some reason, why they drafted Tutu Atwell, I don't know. Tutu Atwell will go deep on 4 wide receiver sets, or the first 2 games before Deshaun Jackson gets injured, he'll go out on some 4 wide receiver sets and go deep. But I think when they're going to be in their 11 personnel, which I think they'll run a decent amount of, and they'll run a lot of 2 wide receiver sets too, he'll be the one that's going to be the bigger deep threat between him, Van Jefferson, Cooper Kupp. He's going to be the one to do that. I think he could explode this season, and we see a lot more big plays for him, but I still think he's going to retain the same target volume that he's had before. So same amount of targets, similar amount of receptions, just a lot bigger plays.
Yeah, I actually love that, and it's one of the things that I'm very excited for this season. You know, outside of all my Cleveland Browns out here, that Matt Stafford pairing with Sean McVay in that offense and how it's going to change that team. I'm not overly excited for Matt Stafford. I hope he does well. But I'm really excited to see what happens with Robert Woods because he's somebody that we've been touting on this show for 4 years now, I think straight, about being a great value. And now his name is secured as like a very high quality asset for your dynasty team. So I would love to see him get one of those top 7 finishes in his year. I would love to see him come out with 1,400 receiving yards to go along with 7 touchdowns on 100 receptions. So I'm very excited to see that. It's a hot take, but not too hot because I can envision it because Robert Woods is super talented. And if it goes the way everybody's been talking about here, then that could come to fruition pretty easily. Definitely for a guy who consistently stays healthy and a guy like Robert Woods. So I like that one. I like it all. I'm very excited that we're literally right around the corner for the start of the 2021 NFL season, which kicks off our 2021 Dynasty season. Of course, we'll be here along the way like we are every single week to talk Dynasty Fantasy Football, where the good buys are, where the good sells throughout the season. We're here to help you navigate this 2021 season so that even if you're not a contender, you're making the right moves so that you will be a contender for years to come down the road. We have all that here in the podcast. And, of course, DynastyNerds.com. We have all the tools and assets to help you navigate the 2021 season as well. In case my voice annoys you too much, we have other tools to help you get through this season as well at DynastyNerds.com. You got to check out the Dynasty GM. It's absolutely free right now. You just go ahead and try it out for 3 days. See how it can help you this season. I'm excited. It's going to be a very fun season. I hope all our Dynasty players can stay healthy. And, of course, I hope you all at the end of the year can be number 1 in your league and come away with that most coveted thing possible, and that's the Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. Because, again, this is why we play. We're not trying to get. This is not the time of the year we're trying to acquire this, try to acquire that. For half of us at least, we're here to win it all. That's the mindset we have. Whatever it takes. What moves do I have to make to win the 2021 Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship? Now, if you're not in that boat and you're reloading and you're rebuilding, then you know where you stand. You make those moves necessary. We'll be here talking about those moves as well to make sure you're in a good position for years to come. But if you're not in that spot, you got to be all in. It's one thing we talk about slowly throughout the year, but I want to hammer that home again because it gets lost in translation sometime with Dynasty about trading for youth and trading for draft picks, or I can't trade this player because I'm not getting 100% fair return. It's not what it's about. It's about winning. You want to be taken advantage of, but you do want to win. Let's get into this 2021 season. Let's make some things happen, Garrett. Let's watch the Cleveland Browns win the Super Bowl, and let's win some Dynasty Fantasy Football Championships.
Preach, brother, preach.
We'll be back next week. Adios.